I did a workshop at Mike Boyle's this weekend, and as I was doing it, I had a really interesting insight about what I call coaching 101. And I'll go through those three principles right now. But what was interesting is that one of my foundational coaching principles, I usually count it as number two, I'm starting to think of it, you need to do it number one. And that's, of course, you got to invest wisely in asymmetrical risks. I got thinking, most of the stuff I teach, especially when I work with adult populations, is a kind of, I worry about things. For example, I say this all the time, you should have a bicycle that can get you about 90 miles away. It doesn't have to be a triathlon bike. It can be a cruiser like I have. Something that can get you out of a dangerous situation. I learned this when we were preparing for the 2002 Olympics here in Salt Lake. I was on several committees, and of course, we just had 9/11, and we were very concerned something bad would happen. And it was nice to go to these emergency preparedness workshops, because what it did for me, and it continues today, is it got me to start thinking, instead of worrying about these things that could happen, you say, oh, this thing could happen. Well, what's a simple step to take? Which brings us to point number two, embrace the obvious. If you have to be able to go from here to 90 miles away without a car because all the overpasses could crush, get yourself a reliable bicycle. I have a little backpack right there that has 4 days supply of food and water for 4 people. It's right there. I just put that on my back and we go. When you coach, a really important thing to do, I wouldn't suggest doing it to your team 10 seconds before the game starts, but early in the week, you as a staff sit down and say, what's the worst that can happen? And someone always says, we can lose the game. All right, you follow that along. Well, if it's a preseason game and you lose it, and you're in a championship format, it doesn't matter at all. If it's a friendly game, it doesn't even matter a little bit. What's the worst that can happen is, you get an injury or two. Now, you can't prevent that. But what you do is you have this conversation about the asymmetrical risks. And sometimes you can do things very early as a coach to take care of these things. And usually it brings us to point number two, which is embrace the obvious. I was the football coach who showed up to a football game without any footballs. Well, we fixed that from now on by having a list. And it was the backup quarterback's job to make sure the balls were there. The starting quarterback, his own list of things he needed to make sure. And as we started making these checklists, pretty soon you looked at this checklist and every single thing was obvious. And of course, my coaching philosophy is embrace the obvious. Runners run, sprinters sprint, hurdlers hurdle, swimmers swim, jumpers jump, throwers throw. If you want to get stronger, lift weights. If you want to lose fat, you might want to cut your calories a little bit. It's all obvious. You're thirsty, drink water. Well, this is coffee, but you get the point. And of course, the third point in my coaching is real simple. I don't look very much at results anymore. I just look at the process. If you embrace the obvious and you keep doing that over and over and over, magically the results happen. You steer the results in a direction that's what you want. It's not very sexy, and it's not very, I don't think too many of our listeners are now at the edge of their seat going, wow, I'm going to go do the obvious, but it is the way you want to get things done. We will be putting this together in a series of workshops here at Dan John University, but it's going to take me some time. I have a great vision of where we're heading on a 10-part video series with follow-up tests and other materials to kind of show you this system. At first, we're thinking of calling it the art of coaching, but it's just this is just kind of a hint of what we want to do. All right, thank you.